Hello, Headstrong team, and welcome to another episode of Becoming Headstrong. This is Dr. Nicole Detling. Today's topic is about grit. When we talk about mental toughness, we often use the term grit, sometimes interchangeably, sometimes as part of the definition of what you need to be in order to be considered mentally tough. And so today I want to talk about what grit is and how to build it. One of the leading researchers on this topic, her name is Angela Duckworth. She wrote a book called Grit. It is a phenomenal book. I encourage you to pick that up. But she wrote a book called Grit, and she's done a lot of research into what exactly grit is, why it's important, and how it helps you in life. And what she found, she defines grit as two different components: passion and perseverance. So passion is essentially how interested you are in what it is that you're doing. So if you're at work and you feel very, very passionate about your work, you're really interested in it. It's something that captures your attention. It's something you think about when you're not there in a positive way most of the time. It's just something you're really interested in. Perseverance, on the other hand, is really defined as how much you push through obstacles. So things happen in life. It's difficult at times. How much do you push through? How much are you willing to find a way to get things done, even when it's difficult? When there's something in your path, a grittier person would continue to push through and make things happen versus someone who's not as gritty might just say, I'm good, and turn around and call it quits. What Angela Duckworth has found through her research is that the grittier you are, so the more passion and perseverance you have in a particular area of your life, the more successful you will likely be. In fact, she has found this to be true with soldiers. She's found this to be true in business. She's found it to be true in sports. And essentially, the distinction, one of the biggest distinctions, is that grittier people aren't those who necessarily have more skills or more abilities, but they're the people who have the never give up attitude. That's why it's often used interchangeably with mental toughness, because it's those people who are going to continue to work towards something when everything in their life tells them to stop. They're going to keep going because they have this never give up attitude. And those who have that attitude tend to find more success. Now, grit is not the only component of success or mental toughness, but it's showing up more and more, not just through Angela Duckworth's research, but through many other researchers that are saying, basically, they're finding this to be true, that the grittier you are, the more success you are likely to experience. And again, let's go back to grit being defined as passion and perseverance. One more thing to know about grit is that you can be grittier in some areas of your life than you are in others. So maybe you're super gritty when it comes to sport, but you're not so gritty in school, or vice versa. Or for parents, maybe you're really gritty in one part of your job and getting things done, but you're not so gritty about keeping your house clean or something like that. Very simple example. But what we know through all this research is that the higher your grit level, the more grittier that you are, the more likely you will experience success. So if that holds to be true, then how can we grow and develop grit? So today I want to give you 3 ideas for how to build, grow, mold, develop your grit. The first one is to know your why. And we've talked about this on previous episodes in this podcast, but you really need to know why you're doing what you do. Whatever sport you've chosen, why did you choose that sport? What is it about that sport that you love so much that it keeps you going even when things are tough? Why do you do what you do? Be very clear with yourself when you're examining your why. Be very clear with what you're aiming for. Be very clear with your deepest desire, that deepest passion, that deepest interest that you have, and why you do what you do, and keep peeling back the layers of that onion until you truly discover your why. And then when things get difficult, remember your why. Check in with that why as much as you need to. Check in with that why every single day to remind yourself what you're doing, why you're doing it, and it'll keep you there when things get hard. Number 2 is basically choice. When we think about mental toughness, it really is like a muscle. You have to continue to work on it, to grow and develop it. It's not something that just happens naturally and just stays there, but it's something that you can consistently improve and build over time. Just like lifting weights will help you get stronger physically, doing mental toughness exercises and continuing to choose mental toughness and making mentally tough choices will also help you grow and develop and build that mental toughness muscle. James Clear, another favorite author of mine, he wrote a book called Atomic Habits. We've talked about this book a couple of times in different episodes on this podcast. And I have a quote from him about choosing mental toughness that I think is important here. And basically what he said is that mental toughness and grit is when you choose to do the 10th rep when it would be easier to just do 9. Choose to create when it would be easier to consume. Choose to ask the extra question when it would be easier to accept. Prove to yourself in 1,000 tiny ways that you have enough guts to get in the ring and do battle with life. And I love that. I absolutely love that, because that's exactly what we're working toward. Mental toughness is a choice. Being gritty is a choice. You can choose that never give up attitude, or you can choose to give up, call it quits, turn around and go home. All right. So the second way to building your grit is to keep making that difficult choice. Choose to do one more, to choose to do the difficult thing. Choose to find yourself in the struggle. And that's how you're going to become grittier and to build more mental toughness. And the third strategy I have is working on your consistent habits. So what are you doing every single day that's leading you toward more mental toughness or toward mental weakness? So in episode 13 in this podcast, I talked about the difference between motivation and commitment. And a lot of people still think, it's about motivation. I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that podcast, episode number 13. It's not about motivation. It's about commitment. And when you truly commit to something, you don't have to feel motivated to go do that thing. You don't have to feel motivated to figure out a way to get it done, because you're committed to something. And so what I'd really encourage you to do is think about, take a look at your daily habits. Take a look at what you've committed to, because you're all committed to something every single day, even if you haven't consciously identified what that is. But if you're committed to improvement, then you're truly doing things to improve every single day. The elite athletes that I work with don't always feel like showing up to practices and trainings, but they do when they don't feel like it, because they're committed to something. They're committed to something greater, and they do it when they don't feel like it. That's really what commitment's all about. And so take a look at your daily habits. Mental toughness and being gritty isn't necessarily about getting really super motivated and getting in there and getting things done, but it's doing those things on a consistent basis that maybe you don't necessarily want to do, but you're committed to doing it. And grit is truly developed through choosing the struggle day after day after day. And the more you choose that, the more mental toughness you build. Because as I said before, mental toughness is like a muscle. When you stress it, you challenge it, and you continue to struggle through it, you build more mental toughness. And that's also how you build grit. So going back to those 3 strategies, the first one is to know your why. So really spend some time thinking about why you're doing what you're doing. The second one is to choose every single day, choose to do that thing that you don't necessarily want to do. Choose to do what's hard. Choose to do the struggle. And then that third one is build that into consistent habits. So it's every single day you're honoring your commitment. If you're motivated, that's great. Enjoy it while it's there. But even when you're not motivated, you do that thing that's hard. Thanks so much for being here with us. We appreciate your listening and sharing with friends, sharing with family, with anybody who you feel might be interested in this information. And you can always find us at headstrongconsulting.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Headstrong Team. Thanks so much. Have an awesome day.